Welcome inside this audio wonderland of mine, and welcome to the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. I'm your host, Derrick. Thank you for watching and listening to this. We got a special guest on the show. Of course, we got Ernie Gonzalez. I've known Ernie for the past 5 years from our time at San Jose State University. We served on the Spear together. We were part of the sports student journalism program there, and I consider him a big brother. And I think you guys will find the conversation we had very uplifting, very motivating, makes you just want to go achieve your dreams. And Ernie has a fascinating story that includes, he still does have his driver's license, a little sneak peek of that. But it's just great with talking with Ernie, and it got me to where I'm at today, and I just could not be more grateful for his support. So we'll have that on the other side. But as you can imagine, of course, my last chapter, which was 27, was about the presidential election and the U.S. election. And obviously, we are more than a week removed from the results of that. And as if you don't already know, we will have former President Trump has been elected back to the office, and probably one of the more, I wouldn't say stunning, comebacks, but one of the more bizarre comebacks in U.S. political history. He defeated Vice President Harris. So we will have former President Trump and Senator J.D. Vance go into the White House. And I know a lot of people are angry, upset. I'm in that boat. There's a lot of people that clearly voted for him, supported him, still support him, even after all the investigations, even though he was convicted of a case in New York. But if you think anything's going to change with soon to be going to be the nation's oldest president, think again. I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic about it when every presidency comes, because I think, it's going to lead to something different. It's going to uplift our country. And with this one, it is a little concerning, because everybody's saying, oh, he's going to become King Trump. Oh, he's going to do this and that. That's why we have checks and balances. That's why we have the U.S. Senate, which is going to be led by Republicans, and then the House, which is a little too close to call at the moment that we're doing this chapter. But I would like to think that he would have learned something. And instead, I think we're going to be going, 4 steps forward, 4 steps back. Now we'll see. None of us know what's going to happen the next 4 years, but it is a little scary when you surround yourself with yes men and yes women to promote hateful rhetoric, to promote, targeting specific people because of what they look like. I think just some of his plans are just so not going to succeed, especially deporting millions of immigrants, some of whom have been doing the right thing, have been contributing to the economy, and the fact that he wants to have the largest quote unquote deportation plan in the world. I don't know. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. He'll probably try to do it, and you're going to look at the economy, and who built the economy? Immigrants do. Who built the country? Immigrants do. And then, of course, we've seen his picks for his cabinet already, which includes Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, for some new made-up department that he's going to start. Elon Musk is only going to be looking for one dude. That's Elon Musk. Just like Donald Trump is going to be looking for one dude, Donald Trump. I'm just fascinated by it. I think it's just going to be another 4 years of just a man who wants all the control of the world, and claims that he's going to put us in the golden age of America, which, I think we've had multiple golden ages of America. So, Revolutionary War. I mean, you look at, the Roaring Twenties before the Great Depression, post World War II. Obviously, we've had dark periods, um, with slavery, with civil rights, Jim Crow laws. Um, but yeah, I think the selection has taught us just to fight for what you believe in. And, I'm an independent. I said that in the last chapter. I have no political affiliation whatsoever with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. I think both parties are just leaning away from what their values are, if that makes sense. And I thought Vice President Harris did a great campaign in the 4 days that she was given. Um, but it should be interesting, just to see just the different voting statistics. And I know she lost a lot of votes with Latino men, with working class people. I think her pick with Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota was solid. I don't know if it really transcended at all. I think kind of where she lost it was just that she cannot get away from being attached to President Biden, if that makes sense. Um, and I think shouldn't really connect with rural voters. And that's what won this election, rural voters. Um, and I think, you would hope that you just need to focus on getting endorsements from working class Americans. Not necessarily, it's great to get endorsements from celebrities, but listen, Joe Smith from West Virginia is not going to relate to Taylor Swift. Um, so I think that's what the Democrats you just need to refocus on is just where do we go wrong? How can we help our country out, and how can we regain the base? Um, and to be honest with you, I think what helped the former president win was Joe Rogan, was the Nelk Boys, was Elon Musk, Theo Vaughn, all those guys. And if you're taking political advice from Joe Rogan, then you're not doing your research. I'm sorry, you're not doing your research at all. Um, so yeah, it's just one of those elections where it's just so bizarre, and the lead up to inauguration day is going to be bizarre. I think the second Trump presidency is going to be bizarre because we've never seen a man who has been threatening media, threatening this, threatening that. Um, and my response is like, okay, let's see it. Let's see if you can make the economy to where it was, lower prices on groceries. Let's see it. Let's see if you're going to be a man of your word. Um, and for majority of the country and for the popular vote, they clearly want to see the sequel, which it could be either The Dark Knight or it could be either Godfather 2, you know. And I think my hope, and I said this, is that let's just all come together. We just got to be kind to one another. Got to be kind to one another, especially after this election cycle where it's just so much hateful rhetoric being spread out and still being spread out about people's beliefs and all that. Just got to be kind to one another. That's it. And, we'll see where this presidency ends up. It's going to be weird. It's going to be frustrating at times. If you guys feel like you're lost or you just feel like your rights are being taken away, I'm there with you. I'm here for you. Um, but I hope that we can all unite as a country again, even though we might have probably the most divisive president in our lifetime. And I'll end it on this. We will have a female president in our lifetime. I just think certain groups of people weren't ready for that yet. But we will have a woman president in our lifetime. You can bet on that. And that's my political talk. Like I said, I don't get into politics, but I just feel like, you got to relieve some stress, relieve all this, all the thoughts out of your head about this presidential election because there's just been a lot of noise. And I wanted to come with a clear opinion, and I wanted to come in with just speaking, how I feel about it and just having an open, honest discussion. That's it. Um, but coming up next, we're going to go on to happier times. We got Ernie Gonzalez. It's a long conversation, folks. So get ready, but we have a lot of laughs. So we have Ernie Gonzalez on the other side. You've been watching the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. Roll the fine commercial music for 10 seconds. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. And what better way to introduce episode 28? I'm just like, just kind of a little spoiler here. This man is a Dodgers fan. So if it was episode 28, it wouldn't be a Yankee fan at all. But I've known this gentleman for about the past 4.5, 5 years. I went to school with him at the San Jose State University. And yes, I put the like the Ohio State University. We worked together on the Spear, San Jose State. You know what it is, and he was the executive editor when I was a writer my first semester, or my first like full semester. Then this thing called the COVID-19 pandemic happened, and we've grown a little bit closer. We've always texted here and there, but now he's returning the favor. Now he is an administrative assistant for the journalism school of mass communications at San Jose State. Ladies and gentlemen, from Los Angeles, California, the city of angels, but he's the one superstar in this episode, Mr. Ernie Gonzalez. Ernie, what's up, my brother?
Hey Derrick, how's it going? How's it going? Hey, I love the intro, man. I really do. Yeah, that's right. I am from LA. You know what? It's I know I'm in the Bay and I'm getting used to it still because you Bay Area fans are something to work with, I'll tell you. But you know what? It's a great time to be a Dodger fan. It's a great time to be from LA, and I'm glad. I mean, we're loud and proud out here, man. So I'm doing good though. I'm doing good, as you know, and I hope you're doing well, Derrick. I know it's been quite some time since we've seen each other in person.
Yeah, it's
Um,
been what, 3 years, 2 years? I think I helped you out with your master's project. So
yeah,
we'll
that was the last time.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
catch up. And yes, folks, we are doing this via the magic of Zoom. I'm always a busy man working Mondays and Fridays from home. And I know Ernie took the time out of his day off, of course, still in school, like 3/4 of the way through the fall semester at the greatest university on planet Earth, San Jose State University. So, folks, you know how I like to do it. We like to do the icebreaker. Why do I like to do an icebreaker? Because that's the easiest way to know somebody. So, first five questions, we both answer these. Okay, Ernie, you ready? And you have not seen these questions. I didn't do Chris Angel and make him appear out of thin air. Once again, all these questions he has not seen. I know people think it's scripted. No, it's not. See, no cue cards and no cue cards on my window here. All
I'm
right,
ready. I'm ready.
time for the icebreaker
Let's get to
questions.
it.
Yeah. So the first question: what are the top three items on your bucket list?
Oh, I want to go skydiving still. I've been
Okay.
wanting to.
Yeah.
That's the easy one. I feel like a lot of people do. I actually want to go to Mexico, Mexico City. I've actually never been to Mexico City as well, so traveling there, just like a lot of roots, to my family and close ones, and we kind of all want to go. So I think that would be something for sure. Um, I want to give back also. I want to give back, starting some sort of youth programs. Maybe we can, I know we just started the episode, but getting some sort of like a journalism for kids,
Mhm.
primarily or preferably rather in Southern California, in Inglewood, where I'm from. That's something that, I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I feel like, giving back is really the ultimate like full circle moment, especially when you don't come from a lot. So that's something. Those are the three, general like macro and probably a little bit more micro.
I love that. Inglewood up to no good. Sorry, I had to throw in that Tupac reference. Everybody does that. So. And as the Rams just kicked off, as we just started.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think my top three items, one obviously is a foundation. I think you kind of know my goal is to start a long term foundation, helping out kids getting into colleges and helping them out, especially special education students, getting them into trade schools because a lot of people we don't talk about the trade school route enough, and I definitely want to be able to provide scholarships here for not just Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, San Benito County. And just also help out, San Jose State University with the journalism department and also KSJS. Shout out KSJS. Um, just trying to help out the future leaders of tomorrow. And I think number two, I think since we got the big event, I'm not talking about the election that we just had. We don't need to talk about that. That's what the introduction was for. But the Olympics, we got the Olympics coming up 2028 in your backyard. I definitely just want to see one sporting event. It could be fencing, it could be baseball, it could be swimming, but and swimming's gonna be at SoFi Stadium, by the way. So we'll
Yeah.
love to see that. At number three, I've increased the ballparks, but I want to go to all 30 major league ballparks. I think I'm at nine right now. I've been to let's see, went to the Coliseum this year, or Oracle Park this year, Chase Field in Phoenix this year, Camden Yards this year, and then Progressive Field just last month for the ALCS.
I
Winning.
saw, I saw you were out there. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
That's cool. Nine's a good number. Nine's a good
yeah,
number. So
yep. And then
almost double digits.
I know almost double digits. We got to get there, and I'll count Center Health Park where the homeless A's are going to play in Sacramento, and going to move to Coalinga after that, and what other city they're going to take people's money. All right, so you're from Hollywood, you're from LA. I had to add a movie question in here. If you could take one prop from any movie set, what would it be?
Take a prop from any
Yeah,
movie set.
yeah.
Oof. Expand a little bit more. What do you mean?
Kind of like, it could be a tape like the couch from Friends. It could be,
Uh,
yeah.
ah.
I mean, you can even go sports movies, Field of Dreams. I want to grow corn in my
let's do
backyard.
let's do the car
Okay.
from Fast and the Furious.
You're on the
Yeah.
same, yeah. The Nissan Sky, the
The
Nissan
sky,
Skyline.
the skyline, the skyline. Yeah. Hey, why not? I mean, I probably wouldn't even drive it because it's funny. I don't drive. That's a fun fact. I don't drive to this day. I don't have my license. But
Wow.
I'll just, park it in a driveway and call it mine. Why not?
I like it. I like it. And there's a few people, Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. Of course, that was his character's arc. The late great Quincy Jones, who we just recently unfortunately lost. I know he did drive
Mm.
as well, but I mean, you grew up in LA, New York City, you don't need to drive. I mean, when everything's public transit, and it just trunks Bart. I've been on subway at New York City too, and that's the easiest way to get around.
Still feels, yeah. I mean, it's easier to get around now. Of course, it just still feels like, I mean, really doesn't feel it is like
Yeah.
just such in the minority. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, the bike lanes here and there,
Mhm.
expanding into, the concrete jungles of the world, but still it's like, hey, I mean, what's up with us?
Yeah.
I mean, public transportation gets us everywhere. Yeah, it might take a little bit longer, but I'm for it. If there's somebody out there who's in their mid 20s, well, mid to late 20s now, we still don't drive. Hey, you're on my team.
Yeah. It took me till I was 19 to get my license, so it's
Ooh,
good in the hood. Um,
yes, sir.
would you rather speak 10 languages or play 10 instruments?
Speak 10 languages. That's easy.
Okay.
I don't know. I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
It's almost like recently I'm meeting more and more people with like different, languages and either even like dialects within the same,
Mhm.
but it's something about just my just awe for that. Just like wow, and um certain people here and there who are just like, th their upbringing. Oh yeah, I had to learn this one, or then I traveled and I learned that there, So I have a lot of respect for people who can speak a lot of languages. I can only speak two, but I would rather I would rather speak 10 languages for sure.
Yeah, I come from a musical background. You're playing in high school band for 4 years, and
Mm.
just went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last month. And I just went. I went off in the because they have like a garage band section, so you basically could try
Yeah.
instruments. So I was just going off. I was playing a little, bass, and then I would switch, like guitar, go to drums, play a little keyboard. So I would say 10 instruments because I think music's universal, but I think languages, that's something I need to work on, because
Mhm.
eventually you're going to run out of English words to say. So you might as well add Spanish, Chinese.
I don't even know if I can list 10 instruments to be honest with you, so I'll stick with the languages.
All right, this is a good one. I think, since we both went to San Jose State, one of the challenges, and I know, even students who take public transportations, might have this problem, but would you rather have every traffic light turn green or always have the best parking spot?
I think any San Jose State student would choose the latter.
Yeah,
Yeah, best parking spot. I mean, yeah, I hear so many like nightmare stories about, you know, first floor or let me just park in employee parking really quick, yeah, and then get hit with a ticket or,
yeah,
something. But yeah, students being late, it's a common thing. And talk about icebreakers. You walk into any class, that's like a day one thing,
yeah.
Hey, how's parking today? You're gonna learn names really fast that way. But yeah, the whole green lights thing, you know, I don't know. I think most students would care about parking.
Yeah, the first time, my first semester, so August 2019, my high school friend who I went to, went to high school, and then we went up to San Jose State. We lived together, and he got the apartment via Craigslist and stuff like that. And folks, don't do Craigslist. Just you gotta see the apartment. So I park. The apartment complex is near like a 7-Eleven on 7th Street. And I know Ernie knows what that's at, the South Parking Garage. And there's like 5 spots. So I just decided to park, in there for the first like 3 weeks that we lived there. And then our landlord just got pissed off. Uh, and I didn't realize you had to get a street permit. So I had to go get a street permit. And then I learned the hard way that they street sweep every like third Monday. So I ended up getting a ticket. So
Ouch.
if you live in downtown, insert city in the world, you know, please get a parking permit. Just go get
Let,
it.
let me also say this, Derek, and I agree with that. But as a administrative support coordinator now for the School of Journalism and Mass Communications, I have the access, the little blanket code. So if any of you out there watching this need a park, all right, to be a guest speaker for whatever reason, all right, just shoot me an email. I'll get you a day pass. All right,
Yeah, yeah,
no
exactly,
tickets.
exactly. And also, going to football games, everybody, it amazes me that people have to look on their phone for Park Mobile. They're like, oh, there's no guy that collects tickets. No, it's just easy. You just boom right there. That's not an ad for Park Mobile or anything. That's just a great service, you can pay. Um, I know, like I said, you work in education. What subject do you wish was taught in every school? And this could be like high school or even university level too.
What subject that isn't taught currently,
Yeah,
or
that you feel like you wish was taught in every like school.
doing your taxes? Doing your taxes, how to do it. I think, it's funny. I used to work at an H&R Block for a little while. I think while you and I would see each other more often,
I think I
maybe that
remember
was my
that. Yeah,
side gig.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the reason for all this clothing lately. I like to just go through the whole closet nowadays. But all these leftover suits come from H&R Block backstory. But yeah, I mean, it's a life skill. It's one of these things that you don't want it to creep up on you and you don't know how to do it, because then you only procrastinate even more because then I have to learn it. But if this is taught, high school, around the time of college applications, I think it's something that could stick. And obviously you need the right personnel and right, people to teach it. But it's something that I run into a lot of people, nowadays, just very naive with that's not necessarily a negative, right, about them or
yeah,
their character or anything. It's just like there's just all these questions. And yeah, the paperwork and the wording could be a little bit, complex for
yeah,
most heads. But I think that could be one, at least.
yeah. I think there needs to be a financial planning class, and also, My thing with U.S. history in high school is like they stop. I think I remember they stopped like Vietnam War. There's been like decades after the Vietnam War. We got to continue that, man. They got to update them history books. Well, excuse me, I know it's like tablets now in high school, but bring back the books. And you got to expand U.S. history, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mhm.
That's kind of my TED talk for adding education. That's why I'm about the
Know it
Secretary of
all.
Education. Yeah. So we're gonna get to the main questions here. And I know you mentioned you're from Inglewood, beautiful Inglewood, known for the Forum and known for SoFi Stadium now, and now the Intuit Dome. That's another venue on my list. Randy's Donuts. But for those of us that never lived there, grew up there, describe your family upbringing in Inglewood.
So I was born in Inglewood. I wasn't necessarily raised in Inglewood, I would say. Or I mean, that's the truth. But it's funny that the hospital I was born in, Daniel Freeman Hospital, just they uh they destroyed it. It's no longer there. So, and that's almost the common theme here with a lot of Inglewood. If you look at Inglewood's history as a whole, obviously, I think now a lot of people point to just gentrification. Um, you know, we go back not even too far in history. They had the Hollywood Park racetrack. It is, in my book, still the city of champions, even though it's not necessarily promoted that way anymore, because there's all these new teams there. But the Lakers, right, the Kings, they all kind of were playing at the Forum at the time and won all those championships in the 70s and 80s. But sorry for the history lesson.
Good.
But it's I didn't grow up in Inglewood. I actually grew up in Mid City, which you really have to pinch the screen when you look at a map. But it's about 8 miles north or so. It's if you look at the map, it's between downtown Los Angeles and sorry, it's a napkin. Downtown Los Angeles and Santa Monica. So a lot of people know Santa Monica, the beach, right? Um, and Mid City's right in that, Arlington Park, Jefferson Park, West Adams area, Pico Union. But it's built the same as Inglewood. It's very residential, um, not as industrial as many people think. I mean, of course, Inglewood now, of course, is just home of all these mega sports and entertainment, not just really sports too. It's not like shopping centers and
Yeah.
um, movie theaters. They have new that's Cinepolis or you know Cinepolis, whatever it's called down there, and uh, it's concrete jungle, right? It's like, hey,
Mhm.
sidewalks, right, and buses and the metro, and I would pass through Inglewood all the time, granted, because my school in high school primarily, and even middle school, was between so Inglewood was in the middle. So I would have to pass Inglewood to get to the South Bay down in Hawthorne. And I'm certainly used to it. I have family there. My grandma's house, she still hasn't sold the house. And every time I go down there, it's like, a 2-minute walk, or it's what, just a block away from Century Boulevard, right? So Century is the main street that takes you from LAX to SoFi. So a lot of ties there. And, you know, when I hear Derrick's name, it's, just a kid from Salinas. It's over here, it's, hey, yeah, I mean, I do take a lot of pride, in still calling it the City of Champions. And, a lot of great people have come out of there. And, I think, Hollywood and the entertainment industry gets a lot of, or Hollywood as a whole gets a lot of that rap, right? But Inglewood is really, really growing nowadays. And it is getting really expensive. And, people you hear things from the left and the right about it. But ultimately, I call it home still. And I'm just proud I just did what I could, right? To be here. And like I said earlier, just trying to eventually head back and give back. That's the plan.
Amen, man. And did you play any sports when you're younger?
Did I play? Yes. Mainly Little League. I played 9 years, really Little League, and then baseball. What do you call it, like AAA, all that stuff. And I don't remember what it's called. But 9 years, I played it up until I was about 13 or 14.
Okay.
And it's interesting because as a sports journalist, or I don't really call myself a sports journalist anymore. At least there's a pause right now on that. But when I was covering sports, it always come up with students, right? Like, hey, so where'd you go to high school? And like, oh, I watch your huddle tape, and like my high school did not have sports. As strange as it sounds, Derek, my high school did not
Remember
have
that? Yeah.
sports. Da Vinci Science, all right, 97% of our graduating class engineering students.
Wow.
As I said, Hawthorne, California,
Shout
is
out Hawthorne, by the way. Shout out
yeah.
Hawthorne.
Who just ran into Tyler, the creator's from Hawthorne? I didn't know that, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
I knew he's
born in
from the
Hawthorne.
knew from
Excuse me.
yeah, I knew he's from like SoCal or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, Hawthorne's great. It sits right aside LAX. And so all these companies, Boeing, SpaceX, JP, like would come to like tutors from these companies would come to this high school
Wow.
and mentor us, right? So again, you just kind of almost brainwash this class of about 120 students. And I was one of them. I you know, didn't really foresee the journalism back or the journalism career at the time, mainly electrical engineering. But the only sport that we had, Derek, of all sports, was robotics. Robotics. So we would build robots, right? And we'd
Yeah.
compete. It was like national competition. I think it's called FRC,
Yeah.
First Robotics Competition, if I'm not mistaken. And the team would travel to St. Louis. Like they were legit, like had shirts called the Vitruvian Bots. Like it
Mhm.
was crazy, right? Like it was a sport. Um, but yeah, there was no opportunity for me at Da Vinci rather to play sports. And now I just heard there was a PR or a press release the other day that they have a new soccer field. So they're certainly getting into, expanding these opportunities for their students, which is great. But at the time that I went, it was still new and all that, so couldn't blame them. Um, but yeah, I didn't play high school sports. Just played recreation. I played some basketball. A park called Cheviot Hills, the nicer area. It's like West Los Angeles, Culver City area. Um, Played there for a couple years. Um, that's about it.
Okay, there, yeah,
Right.
and all roads are uneven in life. That's how I like to say it. So,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
you, it's not about like Kobe said, it's not about the destination. It's just about the journey, and your journey is very unique, which is why you're on here, my brother. Um, when did you know you would want to be a journalist? Because I know you mentioned you wanted to get into engineering, and then boom, you just like let's go to journalism.
When did I know? It's interesting because you teach like, hey, what's the turning point?
Yeah,
Where's that pivot, right? It was like always in the background. It was never for me, it's tough to look back and find one particular point. Other than, I mean, I guess talking about it here, it's almost like I got to college, I got to San Jose State in 2015. Um, the major that I declared during orientation was electrical engineering. And so I started these courses, and all of a sudden it's like it just shut down for me. Like I wasn't really comprehending, the college level math. I wasn't fitting in with some of those students. Um, and when I did submit my applications, actually, I actually put journalism as a secondary major, right? So it always kind of stayed with me. Um, but just a love for sports. I would also attribute it a lot to that. I think everyone has like their hero athletes and all that stuff, and their idols, their mentors growing up, and who they saw on TV the most. Um, I was certainly that like Dodger bobblehead collector kid, you know. Um, Eric Gagne,
Eric
Eric
Gunn.
Gagne, man, he was my
Yeah,
hero. He was my hero. Um, so yeah, so a little bit of both, right? Just a great time to kind of shed some skin with the engineering stuff, and then here comes the journalism stuff, which the passion was always there. The
yeah,
the the TV was always on, so it never really left the back of my brain in a way.
Yeah, yeah. And who are some of your kind of journalism influences? I mean, like I said, you made that pivot. And by the way, my favorite podcast, shout out Ryan Clark and Channing Crowder, Fred Taylor. Thought I'd throw them in there. Doubt they're watching this, but who cares? Who are some of your journalism influences that, kind of you looked at their work and you're like, wow, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, again, during the time in LA, for me, it was not a lot of chasing journalism, but I would always, from what I could, right? Because my uncle would have the LA Times, arrive on his porch. But Bill
Mhm.
Plaschke for me, I mean, just a guy who it's very, I wouldn't say similar, but in the same ballpark rather, as Mark Purdy for the Bay Area, right, at the time. And so both of them, really, both of them, I would say, up here it's certainly Mark Purdy. We know that.
Yeah,
But when I was down there, I would read a little bit of some Bill, and and just the way he talked about a team I admired, the way he would talk about Kobe, the way he would talk about just Inglewood as a whole, um, you know everything. I mean, just his style of writing. I think there's very few people where you read, print, specifically print, and you don't even have to look at the byline. Like,
exactly.
oh, you know who this is,
Yeah,
And so Mark Purdy's certainly one of them. Bill Plaschke's another one. Um, yeah, print journalism. And it's interesting because now it's a lot of, how do you get folks' attention? And there's these newspapers aren't arriving on the porch as
yeah,
much, right? For some households. So it's all subscription based and it's all click and I also love the breaking news style reporting, like the source style. Um, Adam Schefter's, you know, the basketball ones. Gosh, I'm blanking here. Shams,
Shams, Mark
Shams.
Spears.
Yeah, Mark Spears is another one. And
Yeah,
Grant, I mean, how can we continue this without shouting out Mark Spears,
shout out
right?
Mark Spears. Yeah,
Shout out Mark Spears.
yeah,
Um, yeah, just having information in your ear and like land in your ear in 1 second and the next second it's being spit out into the airways. So I really, really admire that type of work. And their phones must be always buzzing and that's just something that, is a skill, is an underrated skill in nowadays with, journalism as a whole, but primarily sports and knowing that you have a specific audience that counts on you and to deliver information, not just on time before anyone else, but accurate information. There's only a few people that can do that at the
yeah.
highest level. So a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, and shout out Mark Purdy, by the way. Shout out to the Jedi himself, Mark Purdy. He will definitely be on a future edition of this lovely podcast. What made you want to go to San Jose State?
Mm, it's a good question.
Because I've never asked you that. So
It was a mix, like I said, there wasn't a lot of money in the bank, you know. And I was very ambitious, very, very ambitious. I had an amazing 11th grade teacher who I cannot find for the life of me. Her name's Molly McLean, and she was really pushing me, Miss McLean, to strengthen my writing, strengthen my comprehension skills when it came to my reading, challenged me, asked the right questions about almost read between the lines of my own writing for me to elevate my writing skills. And so she also assisted me rather than my counselor at the time to apply for college. And when I applied for college, I applied to, I want to say 11 schools, um, just to name a few: Ohio State, Michigan State, um, the basics around the local ones around there: Cal State LA,
yeah,
CSUN, Sacramento State, San Jose State, U of A. Yeah, that's all I can remember at the moment. But I got accepted to U of A, Sac State, San Jose State, and Michigan State, actually.
nice.
And so I trimmed it down without knowing at the time, I trimmed it down to both Spartan schools. right? And it just ended up being one of these decisions like, hey, um, in-state tuition versus out-of-state tuition, and me being farther away from my family, sort of thing. Um, but also Silicon Valley, right? And at the time being, a little bit more engineering forward, and saw, life after, those 4 years. How would that look? And it's still in California, still close to home, excuse me. So that was the deciding factor, in a way. But yeah, I could tell you what, Derek, I had no idea that it would have turned into what it did. So glad I made the choice of being a San Jose State Spartan.
Yeah, you would have made my crazy ass, but here we are now. So I always consider you like, there's these books you go to Barnes and Noble, and each team does it. If These Walls Could Talk, I have one with Ken Korak, about the A's and stuff like that, the legendary A's radio voice. And I consider you like one of the founding fathers, along with Kaveen and a couple other people. But how did you first hear about the Spear?
A class. Donna Nichols.
Shout out Donna.
Shout out Donna,
Yeah.
the queen herself. MCOM 72, she has a course every so often. It's called Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. It's like a special topic seminar. And there's like multiple sections of MCOM 72.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but everyone wants the one with Donna, you know? Everyone wants to try to get into that one. And the space that she taught it in at the time, um, is DBH Dwight Bento Hall 133, which is DBH's largest in
Yeah.
terms of capacity
Yeah.
space to lecture. So it has 75 seats. Now this class was full at 75 seats, and I sat first day of class in the back, all the way to the back, probably second or third, column of seats. And next to me, also in the back, was a student named Lindsay Boyd. By the way, shout out Lindsay Boyd. Broke an amazing Spear story. Um, well, extra credit in this class was to just basically get up and dance. And so all the time, we would have to, and she'd point us out, like, hey, by the way, you haven't danced in a week. Like, get your ass up, stand on the desk. I'm just kidding. I didn't say that, but we would sometimes stand on the desk. No, but in all honesty, it was a class. She had brought it up. Donna does a great job of, getting the message, getting the word around. And that when you're a student, you don't really realize that, right? When you're on the back end looking at these enrollment numbers and again, monitoring all this stuff, it's a smart thing to do because you need butts in seats to be able to teach courses, right? So ultimately, hey, there's this new program. This is 2015, I got into San Jose State as we already established.
Yeah.
But in 2016, so that winter, I changed my major to journalism. And the first class that I took um, was MCOM 72, the course with Donna. So she made a note of it and how it works. It's like the last day to add isn't necessarily the first day of or the first couple weeks of classes. It's like we're like 3 weeks in.
Mhm.
Um, so she pitched it to me and Lindsay, and we both joined that semester. So
Wow.
that, well, actually, no, excuse me, that the following semester, so fall of 2016, which is when it launched. Um, and the rest is, well, so far has been written pretty well in the history books.
Still writing. And I always ask this to a couple of the San Jose State journals and colleagues that have had on the show. Austin Turner, Ryan Carlson, Max Miller, a couple other people. I'm sorry if I left you out, folks. And if you guys don't know, Lawrence Fan was the legendary sports information director of San Jose State, and sports information director basically gets you guys all the nuggets, notes. They're in charge of getting you the student athletes or coaches to interview. And this is going to be a tradition. Do you have a favorite Lawrence Fan memory?
Um, yeah, actually. And thanks for bringing up Lawrence, Derek.
Yeah.
It's very just how awesome. I actually didn't expect it, and kind of caught me off guard. But when you asked the question immediately, I just the imagination goes somewhere. Um, so you know that show Sports? Remember that show Sports Science with John Brinkus?
Yeah.
Um, I basically wanted the nation's leading tackler at the time, Frank Ginda, in
Yep. Shout out from
2017,
Kenya. Yeah.
um, to tackle me on on camera for
Yeah.
the spear,
Yeah.
right? And so I was emailing Lawrence. I go, "Hey Lawrence, I have this idea, but I have to run it through you in person." And I might still have that email, actually. Uh, I'm like, "Hey, I need Frank on the field, and I just, want to run something by you." And granted, so I'm looking for all these like on Amazon at the time, all these like shoulder pads, puff pillows, like let me protect myself here. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me be a little bit more intelligent here. Let me wait to talk to Lawrence before
Yeah.
I so I go up, I go to the practice field, and this is around the time where SEFQ Stadium just got the new turf.
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna be great, brand new turf. I'm doing this cool video. Um, I walk up to Lawrence and I pitch it to him, and I go, or he goes, his this is his exact response. He goes, Ernie, what would your mother say?
I could see that.
And and immediately, and not immediately, I mean, you kind of know, right? You know that it's beyond stats. It's beyond, the job for him. He always took care of us.
Yeah.
He always went the extra mile. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody talks about the fan cakes and, you know, just such a gentleman, would walk you,
Hmm.
as far as he needs to make sure you get home safe or you get in an Uber, whatever the case. But, that was talk about turning points, because again, the spear around the time, having to understand this, Derek, was really trying to build this relationship with San Jose
Exactly.
State's,
Yeah.
SIDs.
Yeah.
And we were really looked at even more, under a microscope than we are now,
Hmm.
at the time. So, um, we always get this whole like, oh, if I was on Spirit, I would have done this from these SIDs here, right? But no, Lawrence took care of all of us, not just those around him. He could have barely met you, and he was really, really good with names, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, but for the moment I shook his hand, the second encounter I had, hi Ernie, like already calling me by my name. And I'm sure so many people could, also say the same.
Yeah.
Um, I never got tackled by Frank Ginda. Um, Lawrence had my back.
Yeah.
And I think he had a lot of our backs, all
Yeah.
of our backs.
For sure. And he's missed. And I remember COVID, and I'll get into working during a pandemic, which we just made the best out of a shit chicken salad. That's how I phrase it, folks. Is that I create I think we were just brainstorming ideas. I think this is like April, May, maybe 2020, or maybe this might have been after you graduated. So I wrote this column like, okay, I wrote a college game day column, which by the way, college game day should be coming to San Jose in the next couple of years. We'll see. About the number 42 and why I love 42. And that's obviously because of Jackie Robinson. That's why it's in all my social media. Um, and I'm just like, okay, who are the most famous 42 you know, who's the most famous people to wear 42? And I gotta read the article again, but I emailed them. I'm just like, hey Lawrence, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. And hey, do you have any historical data? And I think it was within like I want to say 15, 20 minutes. Boom. And he sends me like, I don't know. He sent me like 10 different players and he's like, oh, here are the links for all of them. Here's who played. And yeah, that's how I remember. I remember his Zoom setup, which these are real books, by the way. It's not a fake. This is a real background. His office would have like all these file cabinets. It looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but
On
like
the
all these,
corner, at the corner,
yeah, at the
right?
corner, all these books. and I was trying to interview like Matt Mercurio and then the former wide receiver coach Kevin Cummings, I believe that's his name. And I just, I would ask the question, right? And I would look at Lawrence, he would just be sitting there, just making sure the interview goes on time and stuff like that. But I'm just like, how did that not fall over after what 40 years of working there? So
I guarantee you, Derek, you
yeah,
mentioned some name, a Spartan's name or
yeah,
player, student athlete from the 80s, 90s,
yeah,
early 2000s. He would go back there and just grab,
yeah, exactly.
stick his finger in,
Yeah,
and have the actual note card or game sheet or whatever it
yeah,
was. So,
yeah. So he's best. But shout out Amy Villa, who I know is still there holding down the fort. My guy Matt Penland at Santa Clara University. Connor Pelton still doing his thing. Sky, I believe at San Jose State as well.
Bill Sky, yeah.
And if I'm forgetting names, I apologize too. But yeah, that's gonna be a new tradition. Anytime I get a fellow SJSU grad on the show or SJSU journalism alumni on the show. Um, what were some of your favorite stories that you covered while at the Spear?
Mm, it's a good question. The Frank Ginda one, I didn't, like I said, didn't turn into anything much uh, video wise, but
Yeah,
covering, his development as a student athlete, the evolution of Frank and going undrafted and all that. And even to today, I actually had a class at the time with his now wife, who I didn't know she was in my group.
wow.
So bad with names all of a sudden. So I forget her name, but believe it starts with a K. But no, just and just seeing him as, a 19, 20, 21-year-old and now, into a man, into a father, um, just again, just a student athlete who I'm always going to respect and admire and really follow. Um, but just other stories, you know, we 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 had the SJSU Duck. That was fun to watch, from afar and cover. Some people covered it. I didn't really cover it as much. I wouldn't say, a lot of it is story based as much as like just what we were able to produce as a whole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
like the introduction to Spear Center for the show, hitting a milestone magazine, the 50th edition.
Yeah.
The other cover with the 50 on it, which was the 50th anniversary for the John Carlos and Tommy Smith statues and our coverage of that, and how we were able to, at the time, this is 2018, um, to produce a magazine, um, through all perspectives, right? Having a theme for a magazine is a lot harder than it sounds.
Hmm.
The Spartan Daily, for instance, just came out with their theme for the election just recently, right? That just passed. And having, reading through all those stories, it just brought me back to that specific magazine. I'm like, wow, like how do you get so many angles on the same subject, on the same topic, right? Um, again, it's harder than it sounds because you need, again, coverage from different angles, different opinions. You need, different just again elements in your story, different sources, right? To have it flow correctly. And then of course the art. And the designers that we had at the time were sensational. And I still remember, I don't know why it sticks with me, but Poen broke his wrist or his arm. I forgot what he broke. He broke a limb that semester and was still able to like help us out and hop on Zoom at 3 a.m. Kylie, Harrop St. John, we would just hop on again, Zoom at like past midnight to get things done. So everything that goes into, again, like the editing process, the story collection process, the questioning of these stories is this, should we restructure this? Like all of those little things, all of these decisions have to be, um, just decided upon, right? And if you're an editing team that just okays everything and green lights everything, the writing on the back end might not or will show that. But we weren't, and we were very strict at the time. And is this validated, or can we fact check this? Um, all of it, all of it that goes into making a magazine went in that semester and still continues to these semesters. But um, our social media coverage, our graphics that we would do. I love content, Derek. You know that. I
Yeah.
love creating content, having fun
Yeah.
with content. And then during those pandemic years, we had so much fun with it. Yeah, it wasn't the same. I think you logged on to like Sports Center even and Bleacher Report, and you get these random like, videos on your
Yeah.
feed. But we had fun with it. We made a March Madness bracket at the time for student athletes, not really ranked in any particular way, other than they were sectioned off by
Yeah.
like the year, right? So the
Yeah.
freshmen, by class, right? Seniors and sophomores and juniors. Um, and that took off on Twitter at the time, right? And so a lot of creative ways to keep our audience engaged,
Yeah.
but also to continue to build portfolios for students during their enrollment in the Spear,
Yeah.
those schools. So
Yeah.
really a beautiful culminate. Again, there's not one or two or a few stories that I can just say like, yeah, these are my rankings for it,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, because they're just all very impactful in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, man. Two stories come up to mind. And obviously I remember the bracket where we just made up, we didn't make up the names, but it's better. It just took
Oh,
off.
we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that, folks. Don't worry. We didn't make it up. Okay. Heads up. But it just took off like, a fighter pilot, a fighter jet. And I think it was Ruben Ibarra. I think it was against Carly Potter off the women's soccer player, Ruben Ibarra, baseball player. Now he's with the Cincinnati Reds organization. So shout out to Ruben, the Watsonville legend. But yeah, that took off. But another story, just to get serious for a second. Obviously when we had the pandemic and then, the tragic incident with George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. And I remember you went to like protests there in San Jose City Hall. I want to say it was like probably the week after, or I'm not sure. But then the following year, I did a profile on Caleb Simmons, a former San Jose State basketball player. And then that turned into like a different story with just three different student athletes. And I had to pull up the article, so I wasn't texting or anything. I had to, we do our own research here. We don't have our own historic guide. But I remember interviewing Natasha Harris, who's a women's soccer player, Darian Reed, and Caleb about this Athletes for Changes. And your photos were attached to that story for Access. And I think we won like I don't know if we won like a state award or something like that. I still don't have my physical award, so I'm just gonna pretend I hold it like that. um, but I remember just how powerful those images were, and that's kind of like I think the only story we tag team on, and we ended up winning an award. But it was more than the award. Obviously, it was just about basically describing that year in general of 2020. And I thought I'd just put that out there just because your stellar photography and obviously the stories of those three student athletes. That was probably my
Thank you.
favorite one that I did just from a personal standpoint.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show, no, number one, it resonates with people, right? So it's
Yeah.
like when you can freeze time, um, with moments that really speak by themselves
Yeah.
to people, then you really get into just psychologically, right? Just the feelings
Yeah.
of those times through an
Yeah.
image, and to be able to have taken those, is really cool. But it just speaks to how how well versed we have to be,
Hmm.
right? When we cover things, right?
Hmm.
Um, this isn't 40 years ago, 30 years ago, where
Yeah.
it can just pass as just putting on the paper in a black and white image,
Yeah.
or a stock photo.
Hmm.
This is something where you need constant coverage, constant media,
Yeah.
um, and really too opinions on what's happening, not just facts, right? Not just facts. So you want to get the facts right,
Yeah.
all of that,
Yeah.
right? You want to be there, you want to capture those moments. I also was taking video, right? Not just
Remember
those
that. Yeah.
photos.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because I think Mark Spears liked it. And that was when I know I'm like, yeah, this is bigger than just
Mhm.
San Jose State here.
Yeah.
Um, and capturing all those videos and video editing and all that stuff. So yeah, we really have to be, and I think the Spear has done a good job of not just taking stories from one angle, as it pertains to, the medium, but, also taking photography, taking video, having a conversation afterward, putting it on Spear Center, editing those videos, editing those photos in Lightroom. Um, San Jose State, all of San Jose State students have access to the Adobe Creative Cloud. So, it's not, you can't really limit yourself here. And then of course now with TikTok, short form reels, right? All this, um, easier to edit forms of video, right? You
Yeah.
can just record yourself, your background is cropped over an image and, get it up in seconds or really minutes, but still, there's so many angles to the same content
Hmm.
here. And I think what makes it unique is that, yeah, we are student journalists, but everybody can do it,
Yeah.
right? Everybody can do it. It's just how you do it that
Yep.
separates it.
Yep. Preaching to the choir. How difficult was the transition from, going from a student writer to an editor? And also, what was it like being an editor during the pandemic? I know, like I said, you graduated that spring 2020. So, you know, you only got the first 3 months and then you handed the torch to Ryan Carlson. But kind of just what was that like?
I think the hardest part for me from being a reporter really full time, to being an editor full time was that I had to tell myself to keep my seatbelt on. And what I mean by that is like, hey, let like you can't do everything, you know? I couldn't, I mean, I could have, and I still did to be honest, but to a lesser degree, right? If there were a football game, two volleyball games, a tennis game, I would go to the football game and something else, like every weekend, right?
Yeah.
As a reporter.
Yeah.
As an editor, as much as I wanted to do that, I had to continue to tell myself, hey, you have to give the opportunities to other folks,
Yeah.
to other students.
Yeah.
And it's just a circle of the spear, really. It's like you have to let other people succeed and fail at, their mission, at their task,
Yeah.
so that they can learn, so that they can learn. And in reality is it's only going to make the process more continuous, right? Anytime, and I still do, but anytime I walk into the spear, here and there, Mondays and Wednesdays at 4:30, is and if they ask me specifically on the first day, I try to make every first day, but they would ask me, hey, like say a few words. And I'd go, look, the idea of this class is obviously every one of you, like we're covering sports here. Every person everywhere has a story. You have to get it out of them as a journalist. But every one of you has a story too, sitting around these seats. And if I go chair by chair, and if I whisper to your ear or talk to you one on one, and I go, hey, what do you want to do? You have something to say, right? But also to get there, a lot of times if you're in a journalism class, and the way this ladder system works is reporter, beat reporter, senior to editor, right?
Yeah.
We want to get those people in those surrounding chairs up to those chairs on the front.
Hmm.
Like you continue doing what you're doing, and eventually you will become an editor.
Hmm.
And it is so cool, Derrick. And I know you did that. This happened for you as well.
Yeah.
To see that evolution with students and to see like their pupils dilate at all of a sudden, like I found what I'm doing. Most students who become an editor do it a second time or still continue, right? Um, but yeah, it was for me to go back to your question. It was a lot of that. Like, yeah, you go to like you get a little bit more intense with questioning stories and like reformatting things and
Yeah.
um, you know, I would say you learn exponentially as an editor, like the basics, like AP style,
Hmm.
inverted pyramid, deadlines, like all
Yeah.
that stuff,
Yeah.
because you're just in it, like you're mixed in it, you're immersed in it in a group chat or whatever you're on, right? You're communicating with your fellow editors.
Yeah.
As a reporter, you're a little bit more singled out. You're just trying to do it for the the experience, but also for the grade, right?
Yeah.
The credit. So you don't see the back end, but yeah, long answer again to that question. But that's how I would describe it.
Like, yeah, yeah. And how did you get to work for NBC Bay Area? That's the shared experience we have is that we both work for TV stations. And I know you were more on the production side as well as I. So how'd you learn about that opportunity?
That was an email. It's funny, that was also Donna. But that
Nice.
was an email also by Cindy Lou. There was like flyers put out for it.
Yeah.
And I think Donna asked me about it and she goes, "Hey, I have these students over there now." And again, it's this great relationship San Jose State School of Journalism and Mass Communication have with NBC Bay Area and really other networks around the Bay and beyond. But it's certainly it was definitely Donna pointing me in those directions. I sent an email, I sent my resume and all that, fun stuff. Her last name, I'm gonna again mess up her name. I want to say it was Jennifer, or was her last name was also Gonzalez. I don't remember her, but she also moved out to another market. But she called me, like we scheduled something like within a week. Within the week, we went in person. This was before the pandemic.
Yeah, I remember that.
Um, and yeah, when I had started, and to answer your question, yes, I was production. It was mainly PA and floor director. I was trying to get into that training with, being a producer and just being a writer too.
Yeah.
But the pandemic got in the way and like they were very strict with those 6 foot rules and you couldn't really train like sit next to someone, be on
Yeah.
the same screen, right? So it got a little dicey, but also the hours, for me, it just wasn't sustainable,
Mhm.
Derrick.
Yeah.
To be real with you. Again, no car, uh, 4:30 to 7 a.m. show and being there at 3:30 and waking up at 2:30 and also having classes later that day. So
Yeah.
I'd be out by 12, but it just it's like the day's over at 12, it
Yeah.
felt like,
Yeah.
especially early on.
It's a
But
great
yeah,
story.
it was really cool. Some Tony's still over there. Gabrielle, the producer in the morning. Um, Ken, I believe is his name. He does the 11 o'clock show and the second hour or the 6 to 7. Gabrielle does 4:30 to 6. Laura Garcia, the anchor. Marcus Washington, the anchor's there. Really cool. VNA, Chris. Oh my gosh. Carrie Hall. Rob, I didn't get to meet Rob, my age. Did you get to meet Rob?
No, I don't think so.
No. Well, also, like he does the weather, but he's also teaching a class at San Jose State for meteorology.
Oh wow.
And like now our update news students are learning from Rob, right? Because he sends over the graphics and
Yeah.
all that fun stuff. So
Nice.
um yeah, and that's another thing, just update news students as a whole and the broadcast side and where all of you guys have been heading. And it's really cool to see. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's a grind working in TV. I think you just don't realize it when you're in it. And then, you and I have been both kind of removed from it. You're like, I woke up did those election night shows and I did all that.
Mm.
It's just crazy under sleep. Now, what was a moment in your head that made you want to get a master's degree? Because you already had a busy schedule as is. And then you're like, okay, let's go for the master's degree.
What made me want to get a master's? It's not a what, it's a who.
Yeah.
Um, Ariel, my girlfriend,
Mhm.
she's really pushed me like I cannot describe.
Yeah.
Um, but I told her, she was the first person I told, um, after Phyllis, the former director of the School of
Shout
Journalism
out
and Mass
Phyllis, by the way.
Communication.
Shout out Phyllis.
Shout out Phyllis. She she kept talking about it like if I had to do it. When somebody tells you like, "Oh, you're going to do this," not, "Hey, you should."
Yeah.
And she really she's like, "Hey, plus like you didn't even get the official like graduating. Why not just continue?" But also we'll offer you a 19 hours per week job in our equipment room, and you can use those to pay for. I'll think about it. I was very like unsure right
Yeah.
after. I didn't know. I didn't foresee it. I didn't see it coming, but she I told her like I'll let her know, like I'll think about it. And I go home, it was either that day or very soon after that, and I have a conversation with Ariel. And it took me like maybe 5 minutes to explain or really ask my question. She's like, just ask the question. She goes, of course you should do it. Like she gave it no thought. Like, what do you mean? Like that's of course you should. And I remember that moment.
Mm,
I remember that moment. And I'm so glad that I had her there to tell me that.
mm,
I really am. I really
yeah,
am. And to see her graduate also, and then for her to watch me graduate officially last year and all that, all these life moments are happening, and you really learn to try and stay there, right? Try and stay in those moments for as
mhm,
long as possible because everything's fragile, Derrick.
yeah,
Everything is. And one day everything's going, great. And, Dodgers are winning the World Series and other days, it's you're getting phone calls that you don't want to hear,
yeah,
and news could be bad. And
hmm
um, so, everything, I think I attribute a lot of life as a whole to, I always bring this up, but just education by experience,
yeah,
right? You go through things and it really teaches you things.
mm,
Um, and then it's your job to teach those things to others.
mm,
Um, and that's kind of where I seek fulfillment as a person, right? If there's somebody who just needs to listen to the right words in the right order, and I see that,
hmm
I do my best to, um, share knowledge with them or share,
yeah,
experience with them.
yeah,
And, I'm in my 20s, but I would say, and I think a lot of people would say, especially these days, that life is getting, difficult,
yeah, yeah.
or just deep, just other things. It could be finances, it could be your anxiety with the world as a whole, it could be,
Curveballs, man. Yeah,
yeah. So, you try to remain positive and look at the glass half full
yeah,
and all that stuff. So, to be just rewinding and thanks for asking the question, just rewinding, where I could have been um after that 2020 graduation had I not gone, with my master's degree.
hmm
Um, maybe H&R Block. Who
You'd be doing my
knows?
taxes. I would
That
be
would have
getting in
been the
trouble
cap.
for tax evasion. But I like how you said, we all want to capture that feeling, walking across the stage and graduating. I remember, like I said, 2020, and obviously that year was just horrendous for the world in general. One of the few bright spots, of course, was the San Jose State football team, as you know, won
Yeah,
undefeated conference. We don't need to talk about that bowl game because that was just a bizarre bowl game on the
yeah,
Arizona Bowl. I remember that.
yeah,
Um, but I remember I saw these signs that said, Coach Brent Brennan, the former coach now, he's at San Jose State South, University of Arizona. It said, "Stop! I'm climbing the mountain." Now I didn't get it at first, and I'm sure you probably didn't get it because I'm like, "What? The mountain?" I'm like, "Okay, we're in the valley, but we're not, you know what I mean." I was just thinking of geography, and then I finally got it. I think when I graduated, it's just like this has been a slow build up to a big moment in your life, and you just got to enjoy the view. And I kind of took that, and I tell people, who are going through career jobs or pivoting, um, enjoy the climb to Everest. We all have our
yeah.
personal Everests, so I really like that. And sorry, Coach Brand, if I thought that that little red plastic stop sign and I remember they did a video of like them getting on the bus. I think it was to Humboldt or maybe to a road game, and he would like stand on the street or stand in that the parking lot. I'm at the athletic complex. I'm like, what are you doing? And then it's just a players walking. But that got to me right there. And I know this. Like I said, I know how much your girlfriend means to you, and I know she has been going. She was overcoming some health issues. How emotional was it balancing taking classes while obviously taking care of her? And how is she doing now?
Yeah, yeah, and those of you who know me close, I am open about it. So thanks for the question. Um, how emotional was balancing classes? You know, I'm someone who it takes a lot. It really doesn't. And again, education by experience, back to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
When you go through things, you realize like, hey, I have, you can give yourself 100 options, but to me, that's wasting time. You know, there's really two options. You stop or you keep going,
Hmm.
you know, you push through it. And if you push through it, do you have the patience do you have the bandwidth, right, to climb that Everest,
Yeah.
right? And so, um, just knowing, just knowing, Derrick, that, hey, I'm doing this because of her. I told her, she told me that I should go to grad school, right? Specifically, again, she was diagnosed in 2021. Um, and you, when you look somebody in the eye nowadays and you say, hey, like, hang on to me, I got us, right? That's like, there's no two options at that point. For me, it's we're gonna do this. And so at the time, as emotional as it was, um, you go through cancer and there's chemotherapy involved, and everybody has different, treatments and, procedures that are done at different times. But at the time, it was every 2 weeks going up to UCSF and getting a treatment for really a whole day, and then still being strapped up to a pump afterward,
Yeah.
right? So you get home. I would get home after these are grad classes, but really I was still working there. So what I did not like is the hardest part rather is not being there. Not being there during the day, or not being there, or just hearing, just having a phone call during lunch or whatever the case, right? But you get home and just deflated after chemo, but you would have to still make food, right? You'd have to still caregive.
Yeah.
Um, you're sleeping at night, and all of a sudden it's like, you know, running to the bathroom for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Um, but really keeping my chin high
Hmm.
and trying to be a partner that obviously is trusted, um, but also like, hey, like I see the light here, and leaning on that faith,
Hmm.
that there is light,
Yeah.
right? And so here we are, again, 2021. We are in 2024 almost. It's crazy. And you know, we've passed the 3 year mark. But we are still as faith forward as ever, if not stronger now than ever before. Um, and there is still work to be done. There is still, things that have been said that, hey, like when you're in this situation, you talk about the future a lot, and bucket list, whatever it is, and like, hey, book that, book that. Like we're going there, we're doing that. Um, obviously there's a sense of, you got to do things now in order to do those things then. Um, but we are we're strong. Um, she's strong. There's times where I get home and she loves to bake, she loves to cook, she loves to read, she stays busy, she has friends, and um, just trying to spend less time on my phone these days, and more
Same.
time with, what really, really matters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And thanks for sharing, man. I appreciate it. I know that's not easy. Especially I remember you were one of the first people that take the whole time you knew when my grandfather passed away in my first semester. So I've had taking care of my grandparents, my uncle. So I think it's a small community where you're like 20, you're mid 20s basically. You're taking care of all the relatives about, ahead of you. So thank you. And I'm sure a lot of people will, find similarities in our stories for sure. Now back to journalism here. How have you adjusted to your new role? Because I know you, man. You want to be the one, making the decisions. Spear, I remember that, and now you're an administrative assistant. You're helping out Juan. Shout out to Juan Cerna.
Hello, Juan.
Donna. We forgot to mention Ralph, by the way. Shout out to Ralph Nichols, the OG, who's probably celebrating another Dodger World Series. Um, but I mean, how have you adjusted to that? Knowing obviously the generations keep getting younger and younger, and now you have to, obviously, they're adjusting more to the social media age now. What has that been like for you?
It's been really fun actually. I didn't see myself doing Cindy Lou's job or Rosie. Were you around when Rosie
I think
was a
I
kid?
just got there when she left.
Yeah. Her name was Rosie, but her emails always came up as Laurel Hartman, I believe. But either way, I would say how you describe my role, first off, is I'm the person who sends all these students emails all day long with opportunities, internships, like,
Yeah.
hey, so I'm really known on a screen more than in person for most of these students. But yes, they come into the office and they inquire about anything from I want to take more units this semester to like I want to get an advisor to, make an appointment to I need an ad code to um can you open these, I left something in 225. Can you open it? So just everything. Um but yeah, my official title is administrative support coordinator.
Hmm.
Um, how's the transition been? It's really interesting too because I was fortunate enough, and I was just talking about this to someone recently, but you know, a lot of students freak out when they're about to graduate and they don't have a job lined up. Um, Derrick, you are in great hands. I promise you, buddy.
I
You are
appreciate
you
it.
are doing great.
Yeah.
But I'm like one of those first people to see that freak outness happen in
Yeah.
real time. Like,
Yeah.
what do I do? Like, I need an internship. Like, Microsoft hasn't called back. Adobe hasn't called. Like,
Yeah.
patience is everything in life, but you can't tell a student that, who hasn't had lunch, who's on coffee, who struggled finding parking that morning. Like, you can't, right? So, no, but the point is that um, for me at least, and I'm very, very lucky, I got the luxury of overlapping my last semester of grad school. So I was still technically studying, taking 6 p.m. classes,
Yeah.
spring of 2023, so January through May, with this job. And um, I think for the recruiters, like, you know, one of my coworkers was one of the recruiters at the time, and she kind of said it to me in a way that really, opened up my mind a little bit more, which is, hey, you have like what got you this job, and a part of it was the fact that you were a student here, and this place like the back of your hand, and we don't have to train somebody, not just, enrollment monitoring and downloading extracts and reading all those, but also but the whole where's the bathroom, right? Like you don't have to train that
Hmm.
with me.
Yeah.
Um, how many again, we get so much of that. Hey, can I make an advising appointment? Hey, like what were the journalism classes like? Hey, like I almost graduated in 1987, but I need to what classes do I need to take? Okay, like what's your so
Yeah.
it's for me it was just learning systems, right? The systems that they
Yeah.
used. But yeah, the transition was very, very smooth. I didn't spend like the trainings, the trainings, were on Zoom. A lot of them were, so it's not like I had to go somewhere else on campus. Even though I am that type of person, like I just want to be on my feet all day long. And I think a lot of
Hmm.
students watching this It'd be like, yeah, sometimes, I walk into the office and Ernie's not there. Like, if I'm not there, I promise you it's because I'm somewhere in the building, like helping somebody out, or, it might be my work from home day or something. But, it's been awesome, really. I actually kind of like it. I
Nice.
like being in a position um where, you know, you are asked like, hey, like, can I put you as a reference? You know, Microsoft called back, like, is it okay if I just put your name? Like, could you say a few good words of me? Like, yeah, like that's so cool to see our alumni going out and making a difference in society. So I'm glad to play that little percentage of an instrumental role in that career. That's
Yeah, I
for
like
sure.
it.
I'm grateful.
Yeah. Amen, man. And last question before we get to the fun ones. And like I said, thank you for joining me. In an age where the media has been constantly under attack, and now it will most likely increase with what happened last Tuesday. We don't need to know. We already know who won, folks. I'm not going to mention names. Um, but what advice would you give to young journalists who are watching this podcast and some high school students who may have an interest in journalism?
What advice? So honor truth, honor truth,
Hmm.
and tell the truth, because I mean, there's more ways than one to tell the truth, but tell the truth with journalistic integrity.
Hmm.
You know, always resort back to that. Do your due diligence in making sure that whatever community you're in, um, they are not cheated in any
Hmm.
way. There is not something that you left out of the story
Yeah.
or the video or the commentary or the opinion. Um, be well rounded. Be well rounded in whatever it is you're covering, because people see the shortcuts that you take. People analyze so much in today's world, um, and will be so quick to point a finger at something that you did not complete. Um, but I think a lot of it is, you know, with some, not just sports, again, all types of journalism, but there has to be a sense of also like telling a story and
Hmm.
having pride in that, and resorting to that. For me, that's what it's always been. The bottom line in all of this, and all, like the the part that keeps me going with journalism and sports journalism and all the other journalisms nowadays, is where's the story
Yeah.
and how are you telling that story,
Hmm.
right? Is it a creative story, right? Is it a story like I saw was it the Steve McNair documentary the other day?
Oh, Aaron McNair. Yeah, Aaron McNair and
And
like,
yeah,
yeah.
I saw that on Netflix. It's on Netflix, right? I think it's
Yeah,
on
well, I
Netflix.
mean, it's 30 for 30 ESPN, and
Oh,
then yeah, that's one of those convoluted deals. Yeah, that we can
yeah.
take 2 hours to talk about, but
The I sat through the whole thing,
yeah.
and at the end of it, before I like got up from the couch, the first thing I told my TV, as if it was like a person and I was going to get a response back, was, "What did I learn?"
Hmm.
And the reality is, there was nothing, in my opinion, in that documentary that you couldn't Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to challenge a lot of young journalists today, which is don't just write a story because it's already been written. Write a story, produce a story, tell a story, show a story. That's yours. Put yourself somehow in that story. And I'm not saying write it in first person, but I'm saying what are you adding to that story that's unique? That's, hey, maybe I should read that story that came out on the Spear SJSU and not from, USA Today about the volleyball situation happening right now. Maybe I should, right? Maybe they got an exclusive interview with this. Like there, and again, honor the truth, Tell the truth, right? But make it yours.
Mm, I like that. And don't buy into fake news. Don't be
Mm-mm.
finding the fake news.
Mm.
So now we're getting into fun part Q&A time. We can't insert music because I don't want to get sued, and we're a small little podcast around the world.
Are
Um,
these the Q&As that like the people submitted, or was that earlier?
Now this is the people that submitted, my friend. We got a couple that
Oh,
we got
great.
some names you might recognize. The first one, Max Miller just says hi. What's up? So he just says what's up.
Max.
And
What's
he's
up, Max?
yeah, and he's killing it for the hockey news covering the San Jose Sharks
Yeah,
resurgent San
yeah,
Jose
yeah, yeah.
Sharks,
I
led
heard.
by uh, led by Mac with Celebrini. Okay, so this is the real questions. We got three of them. This one's from, and you might know this person. I don't know her. At Diana K Castillo on Instagram. So shout out Diana Castillo wherever you are. She asked this. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years, and what are some of your personal and career goals?
Love it. Hi, Diana. Diana's actually a cousin of mine.
Oh, Deanna.
Congrats.
Sorry, I said Diana. So my bad. I don't want no
I say
smoke.
Diana, but I
Okay.
mean, I'm
Don't
pretty
want
sure
to.
she goes by both. Um, no, where do I see myself in 10 years? Geographically, career-wise, I don't know, probably like I said earlier, the whole Inglewood thing, and I do want to start something. So currently, right now, I'm also teaching, by the way, at San Jose City College.
Awesome.
Teaching some young minds, some I don't call them future leaders of tomorrow, like Mark Purdy does, but I will for the sake of, shout out Mark.
Shout out, Mark.
Um, no, and what I'm learning is that there, like a lot of young minds today are like don't really realize that there's a path for journalism. Um, at least there, they're thrown into this class as like a requirement, and one out of like or two, and I speak highly of all my students, but two of them I really can tell the difference between, hey, these students are the ones who are passionate about this field. The rest of them here, struggling with the writing, need more coaching, need more mentorship. Um, but I want to find or start some sort of program that, from a young age, right? The little league journalists, right? Um, to just expose them to this field.
Yeah.
Sports journalism,
Yeah.
right? Stay niche with it, right? Everybody's parent or uncle or aunt is a fan of a sports team, right? Um, they might be getting, might be 5 years old, 10 years old, whatever, but they get clothes for Christmas, right? With their jersey and all that. So, start to expose them to them a little bit more. The fact that, hey, like, there are stories to tell,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Handing them little microphones and going up to maybe high school athletes,
Yeah.
or maybe their middle school flag football team and interviewing them after the game, right? And then telling a story. So just little workshops and activities. So I do see myself hopefully um, continuing this educating on this educating or education. How can I say it? Staying on Education Boulevard in a way, right? Because I'm really finding a lot of enjoyment with that. But I do also see myself at San Jose State for a little while longer. Um, we have a new school director, so a lot of new initiatives, right? New podcasts even that we're doing.
Nice.
I won't shout out the name of the podcast on another podcast, but still, just out of respect, right? But a lot of new ideas that are happening, and boot camps, right? High school students coming in and learning about what journalism really is, and advertising awards that we're hosting, the Hearst Awards that we're. There's so much going
Yeah.
on at San Jose State all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really great to be a part of. And of course, the benefits are great. So
Yeah.
staying there for a little while longer, and then, yeah, seeing what life throws at me next.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Diana. By the way, folks, this is not an ad, but just go to San Jose State. That's it. San Jose State, wherever you are, whether you're in Portugal, Norway, go to San Jose State University. And this next question, you might know this guy, a fellow CFTUD pod alumni, Austin Turner. And I know Austin's mourning, still. I mean, even though Shohei Ohtani signed like what 9 months ago, and Ipe was cleared, or he was cleared around noon. Ipe, I don't know where he's at, so we'll just leave it at that. But Austin's question: as a native Angelino that has been in the Bay Area for close to a decade, which part of California do you associate yourself with more now? And he just says, we need to hang out. All three of us need to hang out in person. So, what do you respond to Austin?
Yeah, Austin's awesome. I think is he still doing work with KTLA?
Yeah, he's at the beautiful KTLA, man.
Oh, that's so cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Austin, yes, we do need to hang out. And just, let me know when you're around, or I'll take a bus or or I would say Caltrain, but no, it doesn't take. Uh, I'll get down there soon. Flight, whatever it is. Um, I do associate myself right now more like, again, LA is home, all that stuff. But right now, my life, my profession, all that stuff is in the Bay Area. So certainly San Jose. Um, I live in the West Side right now. I just take a light rail over to downtown all the time, and sometimes I take a quick bus to San Jose City College, and just influencing and teaching and educating these youngins over here in the Bay. It's fun, but certainly, yeah, I do still have a lot of roots to my team, my family down in Los Angeles, and every time I go, man, it's like it's so it's so different, but it's so the same.
Yeah.
It's like you only get it if you're from somewhere and are just
Yeah.
going back and forth all the time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Austin, man, we need to hang out.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. At we'll make it happen, and that's how I feel about San Jose State too. When I walk into DBH now, it's like, wait, you were here like 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and still hasn't changed. You know where each room's at. You know what memories were there, what stories you did, where you did the interviews, stuff like that. And this last one is from another Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast alumni, Max Beckholt, who's in Arizona. So I'm going to paraphrase the text here. I'm not going to read out his phone number because that would be silly of me. But he said what's up to Ernie because he's one of the best people that he's ever met. But also, since you're working in the media department, what is the most important skill for an aspiring journalist to have?
Hmm. I think it's a blend of two, and I want to answer the question like just one, but I think it really is two. It's curiosity, and it's being fearless also, like fierce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like again, you have to question a lot of things. You do. And by the way, Max, such kind words, man. Thank you. And I don't know if you're still up back in Wisconsin, but same as or no, Arizona?
He's
Where's
in
Max?
Phoenix now. Yeah, he's in the
Arizona,
Phoenix.
Arizona,
Yeah,
yes.
he's a Phoenix
So
boy.
a lot closer.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's again. This will be great, at least just to hop on, a video call together.
yeah,
Um, but it's both, in my opinion. Like you can't have one without it's a yin and yang thing. Like you can be super curious, right? And question everything around you or, you know, um, sports or not. But if you don't have the courage and like the fearlessness to go up and like ask an athlete a question, right? Um, then you're gonna get nowhere. And again, just being fierce with as well. Shoe leather journalism, remember that topic
yeah.
that Mark
You
taught
know,
us?
yeah,
Dr. Dr. Purdy. Um, no, it's like, you could go to that game or whatever and just sit down on the sideline and you can be, you know, questioning everything internally. But if you don't get up from that bleacher and go down to the field and talk to coach afterward, right?
yeah,
Regardless of what he's going to say or,
mm,
you know, formulate how you want to ask a question here and there. That's coachable. But again, those genes to me, it's the curiosity, but it's also the courage and being fearless with whatever's, your next task
yeah,
because you can put 100% of your time into one newspaper, into one edition, into one magazine. But the next day, you still have to do more work for the next issue,
Yeah.
for the next, story rather.
Yeah.
So storytelling never ends around here, man. It's
It
just,
doesn't.
yeah, it's
You can never,
continuous.
yeah, you can never get complacent. By the way, thank you so much to all of those questions. And like I said, you broke the Q&A record, so love to see it. Now we got some fun sports questions to wrap up the show here. I'm in the minority of this crowd when it comes to Mickey Mouse titles, Mickey Mouse this, Mickey Mouse that. Because listen, in 2020, we all had Mickey Mouse craziness. Lakers, won at Disney World. That's Mickey Mouse. Tampa Bay won in Canada. But I'm just gonna say this: what did it feel like to see the Dodgers win a legitimate World Series? Because if you go back to 1981, that was a striking short season. We don't need to mention 1988 when happened, with the A's and Dodgers and Joe Davis saying, "Oh, Eckersley threw the slider and Gibby meet Freddie." So, but what did it feel like as a Dodger fan to see that happen?
It's just I just froze, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
Ariel might have a video because everybody takes a video with like two strikes and like, but I was speechless,
yeah,
and I stood in front of the TV. That's blurry, but
yeah,
stood in front of the TV just like arms crossed, and I was just like staring, like soaking it in, like this is actually happening. I didn't react for probably like a minute after.
yeah.
Um, that was my immediate reaction. But you're right. Like there's so much history with a storied franchise. Like there's so much history, and yes, it's the eighth title, and um, but I can only talk about my existence, right? And like growing up, like early 2000 teams, like Adrian Beltres and Jeff Kents and Cesar Turris and like
The stars.
Rafael Falcao and like these like the pitcher. I mean, Eric Gagne, I mentioned him earlier. Like Eric Gagne was my favorite player.
Don't forget about Steve Finley in what was
Steve
it,
Finley,
2004? Yeah,
Sean Green,
162.
yeah. And just seeing all these like Matt Kemps, right?
Yeah,
You go a little bit further down.
yeah,
So many like, but damn, like, but they didn't win a chip like
yeah,
blue.
yeah.
Um, and for it like for it to be this team, with these stories, we hit on the storytelling with these stories happening. It's just so special, man. And on top of that, um, I sent my stepdad and my mom to game two.
Hmm.
I bought them tickets
Wow, man.
to game two, and I was trying to go. I was trying to go to one of these games. I was trying to go to the parade too. Um, but I am so just looking back on it, I'm so glad I did that. Again, it was like after all this, like the Grand Slam, like so much momentum.
Yeah,
I'm like, and it might be the last game in LA. Like, how are you gonna hit a Grand Slam like that and then not win the World Series after?
yeah,
I'm like, you know what? Impulsive buy. Hey, my mom's a Yankee fan, Derrick Jeter fan more than anything, but my stepdad's a diehard Dodger fan as well, and just like called them midday and hey, you guys are going to the game. Like they didn't believe it either. Sent them the tickets through MLB Ballpark app, and off they went, and they had a great time. But to do that, to see that, and they're in their 50s, or my stepdad's in his 50s, right? Like, there's not going to be a lot of this again. There might not be a Dodgers Yankees World Series. It's such a, again, Everest type moment for sports. Um, so I'm really glad I did that, and you know that the opportunity for them to witness that is huge. But yeah, for me, it's one of those moments where I just stood still and try to take it in because again, the fragility of everything. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget about the A's great Andre Ether that we gave you for free. So I remember that trade, 2000, what, 10, 9. Yeah, we don't need to
Andre.
rehash it. And I'm getting a lot of hate because people like, oh, you're not cheering for the Yankees, Giants, Dodgers. Listen, I'm a Giants are my second team. Okay, whatever. But listen, I hate the Yankees more than anything because of the flip, and
Mm,
we don't need to revisit the flip because that should have been overturned instant replay, but that's a conspiracy with Bud Selig. So the Yankees have given me bad childhood memories. So you know what? Let's see the Dodgers win, and it was going to be either way. I was going to torture my Yankee friends or torture my Dodger friends like yourself. So it was just the best of both worlds. Freddie Freeman had the World Series. They had the 5 games of his life, and then
yeah,
the
what a
bullpen.
guy.
That was the underrated underappreciated story. No closer, and then yet they just shut them down, shut the Padres down, the Mets, and then the Yankees, and then led by Blake Trinan. Shout out to Blake Trinan, by the way, the A's All Star legend. Um, and I don't know if I remember me asking you this, but who's your NFL team, or do you have one?
So I don't have one because again, I
Okay.
grew up in LA
Yeah,
during the time where they didn't have one. Now they have
yeah,
two, of course. It's like just wild.
yeah.
I've always been player first.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I was a big Michael Vick fan.
Hmm.
Crazy. And
Yeah,
of course, like the media happened and things happen and not so
yeah,
much anymore.
yeah,
But at the time, it's like just video game and everything, just like all that,
mhm,
just on it.
yeah,
And then it translated a little bit into Cam Newton's game.
mm,
And so I really followed Cam since he was a freshman, actually,
yeah,
in in college at
yeah,
Florida
yeah,
behind Tim Tebow. Then of course, he went to Auburn and all that. Really followed his game like a maniac. Like unlike I followed just anyone football wise um, at all. And of course, he got drafted overall or first overall to the Panthers. And for a little while, I was a Carolina Panther fan, even before, right? Even before that 15-1 magical year that they had. Um, and yeah, I mean Luke Kuechly, like the defense, Thomas
yeah,
Davis.
yeah.
Um, I was all over that team and Jonathan Stewart. They had like the last great what was it, fullback,
Yeah, Mike Tolbert
Mike
and there.
Tolbert.
Yeah,
Well, Kyle Juszczyk, but still, I think for me it just beyond that, I got to see the Super Bowl. That was the year that um, Super Bowl 50 was here in the
yeah,
Bay Area
Levi's. Yeah,
at Levi's. So I was there. I got like this one-time gig to be a security and like just sat or stood like standing room only and watched the game for free,
yeah,
which is fun. Um, no, like memorable moments like that, and so then after that, of course, it was just downhill for Carolina, but
yeah.
um, not really a fan of any team right now, even though
Okay.
I respect, what the Chiefs are doing. I think it's just like any dynasty, right? You're good for so long, then you're just hated.
Yeah,
So, yeah, but I like watching greatness. Ariel's a huge Tom Brady fan, so seeing him and just like now just being a broadcaster, which again I know is on your list, Derrick.
yeah, for sure.
But
Still is.
just seeing sports history in real time
Yeah,
is really what I like, and football does a lot of that for us.
yeah.
Um, but no
Okay.
team yet. I'm not a Rams fan, and I'm not a Chargers fan. I like Justin Herbert a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of any of those LA teams.
Yeah, and the problem I get with the Rams playing Inglewood, once you have the parade in Inglewood and not in like near USC where they had it like 3 years ago. Not that I care about the Rams, I don't, because I'm a Niner fan. But come on, where you play, that's like if the Niners win the Super Bowl, when they win the Super Bowl, they'll have the parade at Santa Clara, drive up 280, San Francisco back. I don't know how that works out, but I thought I'd just make that comment in there because I mean the Clippers are now in Inglewood, so you gotta have the parade in Inglewood, not in LA. Hello. But anyways, my next question, and this might be a controversial topic, just because so many legends have played for both of these teams, and you lived in LA, you grew up in the area. Do you feel like Los Angeles is more of a Laker or Dodger town? And I know we can go back and forth with different generations who were there in
Mm.
1958, when the Dodgers moved from Brooklyn to LA, and the Lakers, Minneapolis to Los Angeles. What do you think? Is it a Laker or Dodger town?
I think it just depends on who you ask, man. I mean, it might also depend on even where in LA you live,
Yeah.
If you are north of the 10 freeway, and yes, we call it the 10, um, you know, in terms of west, right? Or yeah, I mean, I would West LA rather.
Yeah.
You're well, West LA is a little different. I don't know. I think East LA is probably more of a Dodger
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of minorities. South LA, same thing. Well, South LA, but then South LA, you're closer to Inglewood, right? And then so it just depends. It's such a blend.
Yeah.
Um, but if I had to choose, I think the tickets for now to go watch a basketball game in downtown LA
Yeah.
at the crypto.com arena. I mean, it's almost like they're catering to customers and not to fans.
Hmm.
You know, it's so expensive, and it's almost like you don't really wear like if you're going to a Dodger game, you're wearing a Dodger hat, you're wearing a Dodger jersey. A lot of people you see, I mean, even just watching, basketball season's up and running again, like not everybody wears their Laker jersey.
Yeah.
That's LA, it's Hollywood,
Yeah.
right? They're just out there on their chains and V-necks and so,
The
you know,
murals. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, $30,000 shoes sitting
Yeah.
courtside. Like it's a fashion statement.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course, right? I mean, it's only about 18,000 seats and
Yeah.
at the crypt versus 56,000. So it caters to a lot more people
Hmm.
as a whole. And I
Yeah.
think we saw a lot of that during the parade. I mean, the
Yeah.
parade was insane, flooded all across the, downtown LA streets. And I would say Dodgers. I
Okay.
would say it's more of a Dodger town, baseball town, than a basketball town.
Yeah.
Even though we have, you know, a great legendary athlete like LeBron James,
Yeah.
um, and Anthony Davis. And I mean, we have stars all around, but you get into the economics of things and like, hey, like, how many kids are going to Laker games?
Yeah.
How many kids are going to Dodger games?
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's just the blood runs a little further down the vein, the blue blood rather.
Yeah. And I'll say the Lakers have the best PA announcer in I like one of the top three, Lawrence Tainter, who's one of my guys, has that deep baritone voice, 17
Bullets.
time
Yep.
league champion, the Los Angeles Lakers. It never changes. Never changes. Just a couple more, man. How did you feel about the Bronny debut? I had to ask that because everybody has an opinion on it, and their mommy and their daddy and their grandpa has an opinion on it. And where do you think the Lakers could go this year? I mean, like I said, the Bronny debut was nice photo op, but how did you feel about it?
I'm gonna be real with you, Derek. I'm not watching a lot of Lakers basketball
Okay.
as these days. Um, and honestly, man, like I haven't a lot. Like I'm not. It's not that I'm not, a LeBron James fan because I think
Mhm.
the dude is. I mean, when you leave a legacy like LeBron has,
Yeah.
right? There is uh just insane amount of respect that has to come with that by
Yeah.
default.
Yeah.
By default, he's done everything right.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just that I was so much more attached to Kobe Bryant,
Yeah.
and it's difficult. Like there's only one Kobe. Like
Hmm.
I can't cheat on my guy like that,
Yeah.
and a little
Yeah.
bit of that. But since Braun joined the team, I just haven't watched enough Laker basketball to have, great or formulated opinions on it. But I have to a degree followed, Bronny's story.
Yeah.
Um, I think there could be a lot of opinions said on should he have been drafted that high? Should
Yeah.
he have been, even drafted? Like, was this draft kind of just coordinated so that
Hmm.
he ends up in LA?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, most likely. That's my take. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's not. I think again, patience is everything with any athlete
Yeah.
who's not doing well. But then, how many chances do you really give
Hmm.
someone, right? So.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't. I'm not too caught up. I heard the debut was lackluster, to say the least.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought it was. Part of me wants to say I thought it was just like one of these meme pages, like, oh, like that's it, like, turnovers and dope,
Yeah.
hardly any points,
Yeah.
but no, it was legit, and it'll take time, but I don't know. I think everyone's quick to have an opinion, and everybody
Yeah.
has recency bias, and he could go for 30 like all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden everybody's back on him, and
Yeah.
so you know I'm not too caught up on basketball, Derek.
It's all good. It's all good. And yeah, I know I saw those, all the family, like Ian Eagle said. And I can't wait for the next debate when LeBron, whenever that time comes, retires. And they're like, oh, is he going to be worthy of retiring his jerseys? Oh, which jersey? I'm like, dude, just relax, man. I always say
Sure.
this. I always say this. And it's like, I call him the greatest player, like, of our generation. You can put Kobe, 1A, 1B, whatever. And people are like, oh, it's Michael. I'm like, what about Bill Russell? The guy 11 reigns and civil rights activist. I always say that. Then you always get he played against plumbers. I'm like, okay, well, are you a plumber then? And you didn't play basketball, so it's always a debate. A little more San Jose State centric. How has the San Jose State athletic department changed over the time you've been a student and now, obviously now working for the journalism department there?
Yeah, quite a bit, a lot of it,
Yeah.
actually. So, you talk about change, you always have to talk about leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and who's making decisions,
Yeah.
right? So of course, yeah, former athletic director Marie Tuitt, a lot could be said then and there, but there was progress in terms, at least from the focal point of uh, infrastructure
Yeah.
and locker rooms
Mm-hmm.
and facilities, and South Campus as a whole. I mean, South San Jose State is a very unique campus when it comes to the geography for its stadiums, its facilities when it
Yeah.
comes to athletics. So,
Yeah.
of course, it's a mile down on the other side of 280,
Yeah.
and so it's tough for some student athletes to get to football games
Yeah.
or softball games or et cetera. So, you know, um, the progress that they made with the facilities, I think was great to see. Of course, I think from a journalistic point of view, we could have covered it a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
gone into depth with, the cost and, you know, like the, the mock-ups, right? Since the mock-ups came out, like start questioning, and start just understanding the people making these decisions and why they are making these decisions.
Yeah.
Not just because, oh, we have this money and this money has to go here, but
Mm-hmm.
what is this really going to turn into?
Yeah.
Um, and beyond that, San Jose State sports as a whole, I think sports in general, right? Like if you're college sports rather, if you're winning, it kind of blankets a lot of the other
Solves
problems,
everything. Yeah.
right? And for a time, San Jose State was not. And so when you have San Jose State sports not really producing in the win column, it kind of exposes some other, key problems that,
Mm-hmm.
leadership does have to change. So now, of course, Jeff Konya, I mean, I look at it as, hey, our relationship has always been Jeff Konya, the athletic director, but then SIDs, right? So
Yeah.
Sky Kirsten, Amy Villa, who we mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I actually just ran into them. I was getting lunch, and on my way back from lunch, I ran into both of them. They were
Nice.
talking with some other gal and shake all their hands again, and oh, we got to travel to Oregon State. It was just
Yeah.
this past week.
Corvallis. Yeah.
Yeah, so good people, really. I mean, Amy Villa was part of my graduate projects committee for the color of coverage. And even the other day, I think the Washington Square magazine, which is kind of like the main magazine for the
Yeah.
journalism,
Yeah.
sorry, for San Jose State's PR and marketing team. Um, they ran a story or a column about Lawrence, and really Amy Villa wrote it. So I sent her an email, so I still have great relationships with SIDs there.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, how has it changed? The people, at least Amy hasn't. Amy's still Amy. Sky is new, but he's an awesome guy. I mean, he has a journalism background,
Yeah.
he has a media background, and he really gets it. Like he's really also trying to help.
Yeah.
He helped Matt Weiner a lot.
Shout out Matt Weiner.
Yeah. Saw his evolution as a student journalist and just was really in the best way possible, like jealous of the fact that like Matt is getting this experience.
Yeah.
And, we like a lot of them just didn't. So, it's one of these things that's always changing. Um, you hope, right, and you cross your fingers that it's always changing for the better and that the right people are making the right decisions for these student athletes. But us as journalists, it's always, hey, our platform is to give these student athletes a neutral platform
Hmm.
to tell their stories as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, great to again, it's a D1 school. We get a lot of access,
Yeah.
get a lot of access to practices.
Yeah.
It ain't like this in, other parts of the country. So
And I feel like the student athletes are some of the most down to earth people, that you'll ever meet.
absolutely. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on this year's San Jose State football team? Yeah, I was kind of skeptical. Obviously, coaching change. You're bringing Ken Niumatalolo, and look at that, back to a bowl game. And I guess we're going to Boise, Idaho, or Hawaii, or wherever we're going. What are your thoughts on this year's team?
Overall, I hate to say it, but I'm surprised.
Yeah, yeah,
First year with Coach Ken came across as like as a laid back dude, not a guy who you would think is going to be super vocal and super like Brennan has a little bit of fire in him. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah. I remember that.
Um,
Yeah,
like he was always somebody I wanted to just mic up for fun, And so like the moment that University of Arizona did that for like one of their first practices before their first game, I'm like, wow, like that's an opportunity missed. But they did an exceptional job for their what was it, social media team.
yeah,
But Ken didn't really come across like that, in my opinion, until last week, this past weekend,
yeah,
with all the officiating controversy that happened during the game. For me to watch all of these clips, like Coach Ken's like for his boys, like he's got every one of their and what that does for a team. At the same time, you just clinched bowl eligibility.
yeah,
It's dangerous. I mean, I do look. I'm like this running back out of Boise State,
yeah.
Ashton
Awesome,
Genty,
GT. Yeah,
right? This guy, I mean, he looks like the 2024 LT. Like it's crazy.
yeah,
He looks again unstoppable right now. And Spartan's defense against the run, it's a little bit question
yeah,
marky.
yeah.
But their defense as a whole is not bad.
Solid.
It's very solid.
The pass
Um,
rush, goes when it needs to. Yeah,
mhm, mhm.
yeah,
So Boise State, as a Spartan alum, I think is beatable, but not on the ground.
yeah,
You know, I think we will get beat on the ground. It's overall as a collective unit, and really, um, it's the coaching.
yeah,
It's the coaching. You
yeah,
know, these assistant coaches. I love how we have Boje Filamawatu back from Utah State. He was at San Jose State back when I was covering the team in 2017 and 18. That was one of, also like I just forgot about that, but doing a story on like how he would bring his dog to practices was really cool too. But
yeah.
he's always on the sideline. If you guys are ever watching a game like on live TV or where, however, he's always on the sideline dressed with like neon for
Hmm.
whatever reason. I don't know the story behind it,
Yeah,
but he's always got a neon hat and maybe like some sleeves that are also neon or gloves or something. He stands out in the sideline, and it's not just because he's like this big dude, like again, former Raider, right?
yeah,
Big dude, linebackers
yeah,
coach, like pumping
yeah,
up his guys, hot,
yeah.
super high energy, really fun. But the defense right now is really, really good.
Hmm.
So I think because of that, again, the quarterback situations, tick for tack. Um, you know, what is it? Eget,
Yeah, Walker Eget and
Eget.
Emmett
Yeah,
Brown. Yeah.
Emmett Brown. I didn't know, but he was a PR student.
Oh, it's a fun fact. Wow.
Yeah, and he was actually the first, like, so during the first time, as the announcement wasn't officially made, like who was going to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
But I'm telling everybody, like, hey, like if it's Emmett Brown, like starting quarterback, like I don't think there's ever been like a student in our program
Yeah.
who's starting quarterback for the football team.
Wow.
Again, I can't really go back like that. There's
Yeah.
unfortunately no Lawrence. But hey, like that'd be something, wouldn't it? And of course he shined, but now it's just back and forth between both of them. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the accuracy on Eget could be a little bit better. He's overthrowing
Yeah.
quite a bit. He's got great receivers. Nick Nash is an amazing talent. I think he's top 3 rounds draft pick.
Hmm.
And I think also having somebody like the experience that Justin Lockhart brings, like being a number two wideout,
Yeah.
is just makes Nash's job that much easier.
Yeah.
But I think this team can win a bowl game. I don't know where the standings are, where they rank, and how possible it is to be in that championship game. I don't think they're eligible for that, are they?
They're like one game back, but they need like the Colorado State, who's been on a heater, to
Mm,
lose. And then I think just we need to beat out Boise, though, would have tiebreaker, UNLV.
gotcha.
And yeah, have things go our way. And then I'm going to the game on Saturday. I'll be there. So
You'll be there.
I'll be there. I'll be
I
signing
might be
autographs.
there. I
Okay.
might
We'll
be
be
there,
kissing
by the way.
babies, signing autographs, taking photos. And
Hey,
then
okay.
I'm going to go to the Stanford game because I
Mm,
love college football. You know this, so I'm obsessed with it more than I am with the NFL. But the fact that we're finally having two Bay Area schools play each other, which we haven't had in like 6 years due to money and conference realignment. But it's great to see Stanford and San Jose State play together. I will be cheering for San Jose State. I never go against the alma mater. You know this, but yeah, I'll be excited. Hopefully, they can win the Pop Tarts Bowl or I don't know, the VRBO Fiesta Bowl. There's so many damn bowl games. I mean, we got to limit those. But lastly, my last question that I always ask to end the interview: what advice would you give to your younger self, and what should people learn from your story?
mm. I love it, and I'm glad you asked that to everyone. Patience. Have a little bit of patience, because and it's okay also to be unsure, right, of what's going on. But that only makes you lean on your faith that much more,
Mhm.
you know. When you're unsure about things, got to turn to God sometimes. And I've gotten closer to God. Um, and he's teaching me the power of patience.
Yeah.
I'm at a phase right now where it's really, really important. And again, glass half full mentality. Um, but also just giving yourself, like, give yourself grace for whatever's to come. I think a lot of people say about me that I'm too hard on myself and those around me. Like, I set standards, right, that sometimes may or may not be achievable to everyone. Okay. And so, but I'm only doing that. Again, I told my students, um, I think maybe you were in the class once, but I said three
Yeah.
things. I say communication, execution, and sacrifice. A little bit of sacrifice, right? Um, that last one is where it gets a little bit tricky,
Mhm.
because how can you tell a college student, don't go to your job and do the story instead,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, I believe, there's something lined up for everybody. Um, everybody's got to put input in though. You know what I mean? Um, to get the desired output. So yeah, I mean, giving myself grace in the fact that, or in the sense that, you know, don't be as hard on not only the people around me, but also to myself, right? And understand that, like, the pathway that has already been yellow lined, right now, is crazy. Like, being, again, Inglewood background, and uh just not thinking that I was going to be a journalist in the first place, and then landing at San Jose State, and then the crazy timing of the Spear launching at the same time that I want to do something similar, and then the crazy timing of, oh, Allison, the person who got, because I had applied to my job, right? I didn't get it the first time. Allison got it. I love Allison. She works in design now. Um, Great human being. She got it, stayed in the equipment room. Then she left to design, and then they needed an emergency hire. And like all of a sudden, we just did all the paperwork super fast. And now I'm here. And it's like, again, the path, you're not supposed to see it. A lot of times it just comes to you. So patience, right? Patience, and then giving myself some grace, and those grace to those around me as well.
Mhm. folks. He's just a kid from Mid City in Inglewood, California. Ernie Gonzalez. Ernie, where can the people follow you at, or where can they contact you in case they want to go to San Jose State? Because Derrick out referenced them to boost up the enrollment numbers.
Hey, if you want to, stay in touch or at least know about the School of Journalism and Mass Communications and what we do there again at San Jose State, follow JMC Spartans on Instagram and Twitter, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, Also follow SJSU Update News, follow the Spear SJSU, um, follow the Spartan Daily, what they're doing. That's really, and DBH agency as well.
Yeah.
Can't forget about the advertising and PR students. Um, you know, that's that's really what's going on around the school, around the department. Of course, I work alongside John De La Cruz, and we have just all these ideas and all these events coming up, um, and a lot of initiatives. But for me personally, I don't even. It's funny you tagged me on Twitter the other day. I'm like, because I barely open Twitter nowadays. And like, oh shoot, I'm still at Super Ego 1012. I didn't know that was still my handle. So yeah, Super Ego 1012 is my Twitter. You guys can have my Instagram. Um, let's see. I am at
Welcome back to the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast. And my thanks goes out to Ernie Gonzalez. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter and on Instagram, and I'll have that in the episode bio. Like I said, a very uplifting conversation, and he's still basking in the glow of his Dodgers actually winning a legitimate World Series in the 21st century. But in all seriousness, no, like I said, I hope you guys were left inspired by Ernie's story, and I'm glad his girlfriend is on the other side recovering, um, is cancer free, and that's just good news, and just happy for her and happy for him. And he's one of the hardest workers I know. And I'm just, like I said, so blessed to have him in my life as my brother. And before I go, of course, we're going to do a quick little sports recap. San Jose State, bowl eligible for the fourth time in 5 years. Kudos to Ken Niumatalolo for keeping that program a consistent winner. And hopefully we can actually win a bowl game. We haven't won a bowl game in about 6 years, I think, or no, it's going to be 9 years. So, yeah, hopefully we can finally win a bowl game. We got a tough task. We got Ashan Genti, who's one of the Heisman frontrunners, and the number 13th ranked Boise State Broncos, who are holding on to that last spot of the college football playoff. So it should be a fun atmosphere. I'll be going to the game. So hopefully I'll see you guys out there in San Jose this weekend. And Cal football, of course, finally got their first ACC win against Wake Forest. Let's see if they can finally get into a bowl game. I think there's just been a tale of two halves with this Cal football team. You've seen spurts where they look like a top 25 team, and other nights they look like a 3-6 team. But I think if they can just get to a bowl game this year, that will be a win. And all I have to say about Stanford football is better luck next year. It's just been one of those seasons where it has not been easy for them. And I don't know what needs to change. I don't know, but it has been easy for them at all. Period. Um, let's see what else is going on in sports world. Of course, the Golden State Warriors 9-2. Klay Thompson, who? Just kidding. What a game they had. Steph Curry, 34 points, leading the charge in the NBA Cup. I guess the first game out of group stage against the Dallas Mavericks. But what a tribute that Klay got, and well deserved. He scored 22 points. He showed spurts where he looked like his old self from 2011 to 2019, and just felt bizarre seeing Steph cover him. But I'm sure it felt normal for them since he probably did it during practice and during scrimmages. So yeah, what a wonderful sight to see. And yeah, it should be a fun stretch for the Warriors, as of course let's see if they can keep the success going. The Sharks looking good, looking more competitive. They are, I think they're 5-7-2, or 5-9-2, or 5-11-2, or 5-10. I gotta get it right. But Sharks looking competitive. They look to be on the trend up. I think if they just round out the defensemen, they're going to be set for the long run. But I'm going to the retirement ceremony for Joe Thornton, and that should be a lot of fun. I went to Patrick Marleau's 2 seasons ago, and that was emotional because Patrick Marleau's my all-time favorite Shark. So to be able to go see Jumbo number go up in the rafters at the tank, that's going to be a lot of fun, and it should be just a lot of emotions, a lot of reminiscing about my childhood. I can't wait to do it with my dad. It should be a lot of fun. And thank you guys so much for all the birthday wishes. By the way, turned 27, and lesson is just to enjoy every year and every moment, because you don't know how many birthdays you have. You just got to enjoy each one and treat it like a milestone. So once again, my thank you to Ernie Gonzalez, who is an administrative assistant at the Journalism and Mass Communications at San Jose State University, the greatest university on the planet Earth. So thank you guys so much. We plan on having more guests in the weeks and months to come. Can't believe 2024 is going to end. We're probably going to do at least 1 or 2 more episodes before the year ends. What a crazy year it's been. I did a career pivot, and hey, sometimes career pivots pay off. But thank you guys so much. Continue to be kind to one another. Continue to improve your communities, leave them in a better place than you found it, and most of all, continue to spread the love. Peace and love, everybody. Take care. And now you can leave the visual and audio wonderland known as the Chronicles from the Upper Deck podcast.